Everybody, this is Seth with DM Targets, doing a video on how to assemble our rimfire mover. This is everything that comes with the mover with the additional section and the additional cord included. This is an unpainted or powder coated version. I'll show you how it goes together. You're going to need a 9/16 wrench and socket, a 5/8 wrench and socket, and a 17mm wrench or socket. First thing you're going to do is you're going to take your motor end and you're going to attach the legs. 2 bolts, 2 nuts. The leg attaches the opposite side of the sprocket. The unit will come with nylock nuts, and I'm using non-locking nuts here just to ease of assembly and video. The nylocks resist vibration a little better than these do. Once the leg bracket is on, so it's set aside, rinse, wash, repeat for the idler side. 2 more bolts, 2 more nuts. The key is you want to make sure that the opposite ends have the sprockets on the same side. Set up here. These will become the 2 ends of the mover unit. Depending on your situation, you may choose to partially disassemble and reassemble the mover. And that will save quite a bit of time, such as keeping these leg brackets on. Set that aside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my alignment pins and I'm going to slide them into the end section. And I'm going to take one of the rail sections. Notice there's one that's different. That's the UHMW idler slider on there. That's going to go in the middle on a 3-section unit. Slide that together. Since this is a 3-section unit, the piece with the idler slider is going to go next. Another standard piece. These pieces are all interchangeable. And that attaches to the end. Now the unit is basically pre-assembled, and what we're going to do is we're going to put nuts and bolts at all these connection joints just to keep everything good and rigid. I'm testing this unit as we do with all of our rimfire movers. We set them up and run them for several hours. Make sure they don't have any bugs or issues before we send them off to our customers. I think this would be a great time to give you guys a demonstration of how this goes together. Notice there's a gap at the bottom. That's because the unit's sitting on there and pulling itself apart. And that's really all the bolts do is suck everything up tight so it stays square and true. These bolts don't have to be reefed down really hard, just snug. Especially if you're running a nylock fastener, which is what the unit will ship with. This last section, the motor drive section, probably the most irritating part, just 'cause it's kind of hard to get those bolts in there. There's not a lot of room with that gear in there. But if you've ever wrenched on a Honda Accord, this will seem real easy. Now the basic superstructure is all assembled. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the chain on. Over here on this end, we've got this sprocket that slides back and forth. I'm going to make sure the sprocket is slid inward as much as possible. Just make life a lot easier for you. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my chain, and your chain's going to come in a holder like this. It's a reusable thing, and all it does is keep the chain from getting snarled up when you're in transport. We'll keep the chain wrapped up in the thing, pull the pin that retains it, and drop it over the idler sprocket. Now you're just going to roll the chain out onto the unit. There's a pin attached to the chain and it engages in a slot. So make sure the chain doesn't have a twist in it and just set it right on the sprocket. Now it's nice and loosey-goosey. You can take your 5/8 wrench on one of the legs or a tensioning bar that it'll come with. You're just going to come over here and you're going to snug that chain up. You want to make sure this bottom chain is sitting on that idler. Just bring it up until the top part of the chain is not touching the bottom, a couple inches of gap. You don't want to over tighten the chain as it'll put a bow in the unit. Tighten the 2 bolts on the back of the bearing. Chain's tension, ready to go. Now what we're going to do, we're going to put the legs on. Now you don't have to run the legs, but if you want to run a lower target or you want the mover up a little higher, the legs are necessary. So I'm just going to pick up one end. You notice this thing's not that heavy. The whole unit can be moved around by one person if the guard plates are not on it. And these legs utilize our pin-on leg system, just like our rimfire KYLs or spinners. Real quick system, give you a nice secure attachment for the legs. No more legs falling off as you're moving stuff around. Now I recommend with your mover, you periodically lube the chain. More often if you're going to leave it out in the weather, probably every other time you use it, especially in dusty conditions. Alright, now that the main body of the mover is assembled, we're going to assemble the carriage. Here's the carriage, here's your rollers, and here's your 4 bolts for the rollers. These are a metric bolt. What you're going to do is you're going to insert 2 bolts, and there's no up or down with this. It doesn't matter, it doesn't care. And you're going to install the rollers on 2 of those. Now conversely, you can leave this unit completely assembled and put this on when you're tearing down or setting up the mover. You just slide right onto the rails and leave all the rollers on. But it's not that hard to put it on, so I just take it off every time. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take your carriage in the slot in the carriage. You're going to slide that, drop that onto the rail, and you're going to drop that slot over the pin. Then you're going to take your roller, and you're going to set it in position, run your bolt through. Not on the back. And then you're going to tighten these up with a 5/8 and a 17mm. Reach down, just once again, just touch down. There's no torque load on this, just gotta hold that roller in place. Okay, now the basic unit is assembled, and it's time to put the power supply / controller on. And how this is gonna attach, this is just gonna drop right in here on the rails, right behind the motor, and you can hook up the wires. Now, one thing that's cool about this system, it is not polarity sensitive. Unlike some of the other items out there that if you hook the wires up wrong, you destroy the unit. Not a problem with this unit. It don't care. I'm going to flip this thing around so you can see the guard plates. I'm going to pause it for a second. Alright everyone, it's spun around. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the guard plates. They're simple, no tools. You got 2 shorter units and 2 longer units. The longer pieces, you'll notice the little notch has a curve on one end. That curve goes up on these. Drop in like so. Now these guard plates are not AR-500. So while they will stop a 22 rimfire bullet, they will dent, but they won't stop higher powered rounds. Now these can go on two ways, and you know if they're right if they're even on the top. So if I flip this over, it'll go on, but you'll see that there is a step down. Bring them all to the same height. This is a slight change from the original version of this. And what this does, this gives you a little more flexibility on how you set up the unit. You're not tied to the way it comes from the factory, left or right. Now we're going to put the targets on. That's where I set those. So here's the two target holders. This is the one that comes with the unit. This is the optional underhanger. There's a bolt and a washer and a nut. And that spring is on the wrong side of the back side. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the target and you're gonna slide the bolt over. Grab the target. Cut the targets. So I'm going to slide the bolt through the target. The bolt goes through the hole in the top of the hanger, and the spring goes in the back. Now the reason for this kind of complex target hanger setup was this way you can tension the target so you don't get a lot of swinging when the target changes direction. Compatible with all of our targets. This is actually a center fire target I'm throwing out here right now, along with most of our competitors' targets that run a center gravity single point hole for hanging. We prefer to use our targets. Now the underhanger is on the back side of that carriage. There's a section of tube with holes in it, and this slides in and goes on the exact same way as the legs pin on. And then the upper target just drops into place. We did try to keep the use of tools as minimal as possible. Unfortunately, we couldn't get away with it completely. Now what you're going to want to do, once these are on, take 9/16 wrench and socket or whatever, and you're just going to press that spring a little bit. So you get the appropriate amount of swing you want. Now you can leave it loose and they'll swing all over the place, and it certainly can make it challenging, especially with a really skinny target like our rear block. Alright, targets are on, unit's assembled. The only thing left to do is to attach powder. Now this unit can be operated via 110 shore power generator, or it can also be operated by a 12 volt source such as a diesel battery. You can't do both at the same time, so we're just going to start with the 110. I'm going to plug this cord into the receptacle on the front of the control panel, attach my shore power, and on the switch there's a 110 sticker. I'm going to flip the 110 direction. There we go. Now if you choose to not use the legs, these leg extensions, it'll have a little less sway to it. So getting it up higher puts a little more sway in the unit, won't hurt anything. One other thing is when you set it up, make sure the unit isn't cocked because it will develop a little bit of a bow if setting correctly and the chain will rub on the tear. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it off. You can turn it off at any time. And I'm going to unplug the 110 cord. We're going to plug in the 12 volt cord. Now the 12 volt cord uses one of these Anderson plugs. This is a semi-standard plug, often seen used to hook up winches and whatnot. So it plugs right into the unit. Clicks into place. Now let me grab a battery and we'll get this guy hooked up. This unit pulls about 2 amps. So on an 80 amp hour deep cell battery, in theory, this thing will run for 40 hours continuous on a charge. I haven't tested it for 40 hours, but it'll run on it. Alright, and we're going to select the 12 volt option, and away we go. And that concludes setup of DM Target's rimfire mover.